When I was asked to give a talk about the effects of war on children, a photograph instantly jumped into my mind. The iconic picture of a group of terrified little Vietnamese children burning as they run from a napalm bomb explosion in 1972. Those of you old enough to remember the Vietnam War will immediately recall it and the horror it caused you to feel. Here's a copy of the picture. Just pass it around. Do you remember that picture?
I remember that picture well, thank you.
Yeah, everybody does, I think, who's at least 45 or 50. You recognize the picture? Yeah. To me, this picture exemplifies more than 1,000 words ever could the agonies of war and the ways it destroys and brutalizes its most innocent victims, the children of war. The subject is far too immense for me to encapsulate in a few remarks. It would require years of research and would fill up 100 PhD dissertations at least. I will try only to give a brief overview. Basically, gone are the days when most wars were fought between countries' armies on a remote battlefield. The vast majority of modern conflicts take place within countries, not between them. And whereas civilians were once far removed from the fighting, they're now routinely targeted and make up 90% of the casualties. In the last decade, dating back from 2008, approximately 2 million children were killed in wars and conflicts. 4.5 million children were disabled, and 12 million were left homeless. They also accounted for 80% of the 40 million refugees worldwide. In many conflict zones, children account for the majority of the casualties. Most die not from the weapons themselves, but from preventable diseases that aren't headed off or treated because the health systems and infrastructure have been destroyed. Not only does war kill and maim millions of children around the world, it creates psychological, moral, and spiritual devastation to them also. Rape and prostitution explode into the lives of the young and innocent. The social upheavals wars cause have devastating impacts on children's lives as families are split apart or forced to evacuate from their homes. And then there are the child soldiers. According to a 1996 UNICEF report, at that time there were approximately 300,000 child soldiers, including many girls who were forced to, quote, service, unquote, the troops. In Liberia, for instance, children as young as 7 were found in combat. Today, in 2012, the numbers of child combatants have probably increased astronomically. In our own United States, war can have a devastating effect on children, even though we've been largely remote from the battlefields in the 20th and 21st centuries. Since 9/11, for instance, children have been noticeably affected, and I'm not referring only to the ones who tragically lost family members at the World Trade Center. We all can imagine the effects on those unfortunate kids, but it also had adverse effects on children close to the scene. 2 studies done in 2010 show that there were significantly higher cases of post-traumatic stress disorder in children close to the World Trade Center bombings than are normally found in that age group. World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and all those currently in effect have had untold consequences on American kids as their relatives were killed and wounded. The long-enduring physical and psychological traumas suffered by veterans of these wars have badly disrupted families and have caused much damage to children. There have been other, less visible ill effects of wars or threatened ones. The Cold War caused much anxiety to American children, inasmuch as the possibility of nuclear war was ever present for years and resulted in great fear and stress to them. I believe children acutely fear, as we adults do, the escalation of conflicts now raging around the world and the potential for direct attacks on the United States. The fear of being attacked in our own land is something new in the lives of children and grandchildren, and I suspect it wreaks havoc on their psyches yet to be measured. And of course, children in the U.S. are hurt immeasurably by the loss of benefits as funds are diverted from civilian needs to the expenses of war. That is another immense issue which I won't attempt to discuss here. You all know too well how immoral and catastrophic the situation is. Because I'm a grandmother and care about children, I was induced into protesting our wars in Iraq and subsequently Afghanistan by another photograph, proving once again that one picture is worth 1,000 words. I saw a photograph of a 12-year-old Iraqi boy, Ali Assad, in Baghdad, who had lost his arms and was badly burned on most of his torso. The unthinkably tragic boy had also lost all his immediate family, parents and siblings. The cause, our U.S. bombs, raining down on Baghdad in the shock and awe event celebrated by CNN as if it were the latest action movie. And here's the picture I'm referring to. It's horrible, but
It's so tragic.
but it had sort of a not too bad ending. He was sent to England, where he was in a very good prep school. He learned English, he learned to maneuver without arms, became a very intelligent, cheerful boy. So somehow he survived not too badly. The next day, after I saw that picture, I organized Grandmothers Against the War and our weekly peace vigil at Rockefeller Center. I do believe that if there were 1 million such vigils throughout the nation, all our troops would have been brought home years ago. We can't prevent all global conflicts, but we can strive to end those our own country is responsible for. Unfortunately, they are the major wars, and they account for the deaths of many, many children. My message? Listen to your granny. Get off your butts. Hit the streets. Demand that our wars and occupations cease. Children are dying. Children are suffering. It is now in its 9th year. Every Wednesday afternoon from 4:30 to 5:30 on 5th Avenue across from Saks in front of Rockefeller Plaza. That's between 49th and 50th Streets. And I have to boast that we've never missed a single vigil, no matter what the weather.